So, can we just talk about how Mai went out of her way to tell Sakata, like, hey, look, when you go to my place, do not open up the Japanese-styled cabinet. Do not open it. I'm just thinking to myself, like, Mai, you know, Sakata, you should also know, since you're very intelligent, that telling an individual not to open something is very shady, and it'll make someone interested in wanting to open said cabinet up. And so, even if Mai wasn't purposely going out of her way to technically tell Sakata to open up the cabinet, just like, that was one of the dumbest things you could say to an individual. But it's obvious that Mai intentionally said it like that because she had ulterior motives, and she wants Sakata to open it up to figure out what's in there and potentially help out, you know, Mai's little sister, something like that. But it's just very funny how that scene was done, and also the cliffhanger, not a big fan of it, I'm gonna be honest. I'm getting into this series a lot, and having the episode end on a scene where Sakata is opening up the cabinet and we can potentially get revealed on what's really going on here or something more about Mai, it had me hyped up and excited. But then the episode ends, the ending song plays, which, don't get me wrong, the ending song, it's really great. I love the new visuals and seeing how Mai and Mai's little sister was looking at each other in the ending sequence. It was really good, but I was just like, really? It's already over? The episode's done? Like, where did the time go while watching this episode? It really upsets me. It upsets me. Every freaking time I'm getting into a episode, it has to end on one of the best parts. But okay, nonetheless, let's talk about what this episode was about, and that is body swapping. Now, I kind of talked about this in my last episode review of Bunny Girl Senpai. I said that is most likely what was going to happen. I mean, it's very obvious. I mean, with the whole, you know, blonde hair girl, which we found out was Mai's little sister, you know, waking up, looking in the mirror, it just screamed body swapping situation. I've seen enough body swapping series to see that that's kind of where it was leading towards. And since this is a supernatural series, it makes perfect sense for something like that to happen. So it wasn't, you know, technically out of the realm of possibility. But anyways, body swapping between Mai and her younger sister. So thankfully, it is not more complicated than it seems. Well, it is complicated, the issue between Mai and her younger sister, but it could be a lot worse. Like, what if the blonde-haired girl was just a random celebrity and Mai swapped bodies with her? It would be very complicated, and, you know, if the person had ill intentions for Mai, it could easily cause a lot of problems in her life, which technically that is not what happened in this episode, which I'm very pleased about, because I like body swapping series. It's pretty cool. It's interesting to see someone else in someone else's body and seeing how they react with individuals. I mean, there's the typical cliches of, you know, just the funny hilarity of, you know, either having to go about daily tasks of, you know, personal hygiene. But besides the common cliches and stuff with body swapping, I do really like just to see how someone tries to fit into society and having to put on, like, this mask and to act like someone they're really not. And it's always been a fascinating little thing when it comes to literature for me. And I'm very pleased that this episode didn't fall into this stereotypical stereotypes of body swapping. For instance, Mai and Mai's younger sister, even though they swap bodies, obviously it didn't bug them to the point of, like, you know, hilarity. Like, there wasn't a lot of comedy or jokes. I mean, there was, but it wasn't the typical, you know, body swapping comedy you would get in this situation. But on top of that as well, we also have it to where, for the most part, the, you know, issue of having to fit into society while being someone else, it's really not that hard for each individual. I mean, number one, Mai is an actor, so she's really good at being able to be someone else, so being as her younger sister, it comes as second nature. She's used to this. She's used to acting and playing as another character, so it's easy. It's like easy mode for her. Well, the younger sister, even though she isn't as experienced as Mai, and obviously we see she has issues in this episode, it isn't as bad as it normally would be. Like, I mean, she isn't getting found out that she's a different person. I mean, she had, you know, hyperventilation where she's freaking out with anxiety, but overall, I mean, she does have experience in, you know, showbiz or being an idol and singing and stuff, so she does know certain things. So yeah, I do like how the typical stuff, it wasn't like, oh, the personal drama with, you know, characters that they're always around, knowing that they're different or whatever, and having to clue them in on what's going on, because, I mean, Mai doesn't have any friends, and Sakuta's basically her only friend. So obviously, she doesn't have to really worry about that fitting into school. So we didn't have the common school cliche of trying to be, the normal person in class or whatever. I'm happy for that. And then, Mai as well, since she's an actor, she's able to go about doing everything like she wants because she can really get into the role. But let's get into what the conflict is about, so why it happened in the first place. It's implied that it's inferiority complex with the younger sister and Mai. For instance, she feels inferior to Mai, which it makes sense. I mean, when you look at everything that this episode displayed and what we know of already, it would make sense why someone would be, having an inferiority complex towards their older sister. And that's what was being set up within this episode, but I think there's much more to it than just an inferiority complex. I believe that there's more to it that maybe Mai's younger sister wanted to be able to just retreat, to be able to not deal with the emotional baggage that comes with her family. For instance, you gotta remember it from this point of view that we saw in this episode. The younger sister, she's constantly being bugged by her mother to constantly do things, and she's constantly being compared with her other sister, which is Mai, and she probably is just done with it. She doesn't want to hear it constantly, it bugs her, and besides just having, an inferiority complex, she just wants to be done with that baggage, that stress on her shoulder, which, obviously she ran away because of Mai. Sakura nailed it down really quickly in this episode, but she just wants to be done with it. She doesn't want to deal with that stress, and so being in Mai's body, she technically doesn't have to deal with that. That's what she assumed. She wouldn't have to deal with someone constantly pecking at her until she gets annoyed, and, it just really brings her down. It's not the fact that she just wanted to be Mai, it's just she didn't want to have to deal with probably her mother constantly just, hitting her to the point to where she's being broken down to where she doesn't really even know what to do. Now, when it comes to her anxiety and everything else we got to see, that scene with Sakura when he was watching from the distance and seeing how Mai's younger sister was handling the situation within her body, it was a very, very well done scene. Like, it really got across what type of emotions was going on in Mai's younger sister, how she felt about the entire situation, to the camera angles, to the voice acting, just everything about the scene I think was probably well done. Like, it's probably the best part of the episode. Easily the best part. And the reason why I say that is because just the shaking of the hands. Like, the start of, just seeing Mai's younger sister, her hands just start shaking and all that. And you could just see how she slowly starts to heavy breathe. And you just see how the camera pans. Nobody's really aware of it. And when you see it pan to her, and Sakura notices something is off. He realizes something really bad's happening. And you see how she starts to freak out. In that moment, she realizes what Mai has to go through. See, as I said already in this video, I believe that the reason why she kind of swapped bodies was because she wanted to run away from her life. She didn't want to be, her once self. She wants to be someone that, isn't constantly being nagged on, maybe like her, how her mother did. But being in Mai's body, she has other responsibilities that she wasn't really completely aware of, and she realizes that Mai does have it rough. Even though it isn't as exactly, one-on-one similar to what she goes through, Mai has a lot of pressure put on her because there's countless people that are relying on her to get the role done properly. For instance, acting, getting these commercials out, many are relying on her, and in that moment she realized, like, holy crap, the weight she's holding on her. She's like, I'm dealing with so much in my life, but then I look at her like, holy crap, how's she able to take it? And in that moment, it probably made her feel even worse, like she retreated even deeper into herself and feeling like she's inferior because she's like, man, I can't even handle this little commercial, but also I see what she's been through, and I think, oh, I had it hard when I saw my life. So she's starting to realize what's really going on here and what really sets her apart from Mai. I feel like, grand scheme of things, I do believe that she just needs to have more confidence in herself. She needs to, actually just not care what other people think. She needs to actually take a, a chapter from Sakura, and now he's an individual that doesn't care how people view him. He doesn't care if people don't like him or he's all alone. As long as if he has one single person that needs him, that's all that matters to him. And I feel like that's probably what she's probably going to learn from Sakura, is that she doesn't need everybody's approval. She doesn't need to be the best for every single person in the world. There's going to be people that are going to be disappointed in you. That's just how life is. I mean, there's been many of us, actually every single one of us probably one point in our life has probably disappointed someone. And, you can't really get past that. Like, it's not something that, you can just avoid. It's going to happen one point or time in your life to where you're going to disappoint someone. And there's just nothing you can do about it. There's just no way you can get around it. And I feel like she's got to realize that, you know, she can't please everybody. She can't always make, you know, everybody happy. She has to make herself happy. And she needs to realize that, you know, she doesn't need to constantly think that just because she is not, you know, identical to Mai, that she's inferior. She's her own person, and that's what she needs to realize. She is her own self. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own purpose and what they need to do in life. And that is what I think she's struggling to come to terms with. And I think Mai realizes this, and even though she's very blunt, she doesn't really know how to properly communicate with her sister, which this is one of the issues that Mai has had for a while. It's actually an issue she had in the first arc, is that she doesn't know how to properly express herself or communicate with individuals, which is why she's been so isolated. It's not just because of showbiz, but she's just such an isolated person. She's very antisocial, and in this case, I feel like seeing how she interacted with her sister really amplifies the fact of the flaw in Mai's character, how she can't really express herself, and that's why she really loves Sakuta, because he's very understanding and he recognizes what type of person she is, and she appreciates that a lot. So, yeah, I mean, I do like the exchange between the sisters, well, how blunt she was. I feel like it's not just going to be, you know, maybe Mai's younger sister getting development, but it's also going to be Mai getting development, forming a bond or a relationship with her younger sister. But I think that's pretty much about it. It's a great episode. I love the individual little nitty-gritty details throughout the episode, like the stuff with Kunimi and, you know, his girlfriend, and how she actually offered advice to Sakuta without, you know, really being, you know, very mean or aggressive towards him. There was a lot of good scenes, little details building up the characters, and I appreciate that. So I can't wait to see, you know, how the series progresses from this point forward, and how Mai and her younger sister is going to overcome this conflict. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.